archaeobotanical analyses, which is just a fancy word for studying ancient plant remains, revealed preserved olive pits, grape seeds, and pollen trapped in sealed soil layers beneath the church floor. And these weren't just like random seeds scattered about, they were actually neatly organized into terraced planting beds lined by low stone walls. Exactly what you'd expect to see in a cultivated garden from the first century. As if that weren't enough, researchers also uncovered several rock-cut tombs carved directly into the bedrock. And these weren't just caves formed by nature, they were purposefully hand-chiseled chambers dating precisely to the era around Jesus' crucifixion. Again, just as the Gospels describe.
The logical fallacy here is rather obvious. Cameron's essentially arguing that the Gospel says someone was buried in a rock-cut tomb outside the city walls. We found rock-cut tombs outside of the city walls, therefore the Gospel account is historically accurate. Again, by using this logic, archaeologists discovering Troy, as described in Homer's Iliad, would prove that Achilles was actually the son of a goddess. This should be obvious, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it is obvious to most Christians, surely, but finding the setting doesn't validate the supernatural claims made about what happened there.
No, but it provides more evidence for that supernatural conclusion. There is no way to directly prove a miracle like the resurrection or Christ's ascension through archaeology, but historical sciences do provide empirical facts that can lead to a supernatural conclusion. Cameron is not saying, here's a tomb, therefore Jesus is God, like in Woodford's Troy example. Cameron's saying it's striking that the traditional tomb of Christ in a 4th century church also happens to be around other tombs that were built centuries earlier, thus confirming this site was not part of a later legend, but fits perfectly with the claim that Jesus of Nazareth was killed and then buried among other new tombs. And the same is true of there being a garden, which, contrary to Woodford's claim, weren't all over the place, but would be a unique thing to find in this location that further corroborates John's claims. All of this confirms historical details that make the natural facts supporting the resurrection more reliable. Christ died by crucifixion, was buried in a locatable tomb. His followers claimed to see him physically alive 3 days later, and they were capable of checking his tomb to see if it was truly empty.